Good morning all, and welcome to a village walk around Yaxley. Probably the number one most demanded effort that I make. A number of people who said come and do Yaxley. So today we're doing Yaxley. Starting off at the top of Church Street and the cemetery. Not the most exciting place to start, I suppose, but there are Commonwealth war graves here, and there's also, as there often is at these places, an old mortuary chapel. So we'll pop in and have a look. It's a very nicely crafted war memorial. Somewhat different from the usual cross. These will be the Commonwealth war graves: Private Garrett, Private Goodwin, Private Smith and Private Nightingale, with Private Stanyon in the background. And there'll be the brave men from the village that lost their lives in the Great War, and somewhere there'll be one for the Second World War as well. There it is. It's quite a lot as well. Sad to see. All the brave men. And down here in memory of, I don't know the story here. This chap was a Polish chap, and I embarrassed enough to admit I don't know the story. I'm going to find the story now and add it to the screen. Obviously another brave man. Let's have a wander down to the mortuary chapel. See if we can find, see if we can find a date for it, because I couldn't find one in my research. I know it must be late 1800s because of when it did and didn't appear on maps, but I can usually find a date. But as I say, I couldn't. And I'm hoping it'll be emblazoned across this rather run down looking mortuary chapel, no disrespect. It looks like it's seen better days. I usually have a date on them somewhere. Can't see anything. My guess from the maps that I've seen that it dates to somewhere in the 1880s, and that's probably about as close as I'm going to get. Looks like there might have been a date at the top there, but if there was, whatever it was held on is gone. Yeah. I think I might have to do a bit more research and find you a date. I mentioned earlier I've had more requests to do a walk around and a video of Yaxley village, and I've always put it off because it's always struck me as such a big place. In fact, it was once relatively recently designated as the largest village in the country. I don't know if it still is, but I can understand that. It's certainly a big suburb if it's not a big village. But I looked at this map the other day, 1938, I put it up on the screen, and you can see at the top of the picture is Broadway, and there's not a whole lot on Broadway, it's just a country lane with a windmill, and the windmill's gone. The windmill's completely gone. It's under British Legion Club now. and there's nothing up there. In fact, all of life in Yaxley back then was down the bottom in what is now known as the conservation area of Yaxley, and that's where we're going today, basically dropping down Church Street and along Main Street, because that is where all the history is. So it's less daunting now than I feared it was going to be, and that is our plan for today, as I say, to drop down the bottom. There's no point in doing Broadway or any of the housing estates. It's just going to be pretty much Main Street. I like to pick out the more sort of modest gravestones usually, but this one has just caught my eye from a distance, so made to be seen, this one. Magnificent Anglo-Saxon style cross on the top of it as well. It's not Anglo-Saxon, but the style is right. In loving memory of James Speechley, aged 64 years, died suddenly in 1909. And also, I think it says Rebecca, the wife of the above, who died, I think that says 1924. Let's see what we can find. Speechley's a familiar name, I must admit. There's a nice, more modest stone, small stone. Memories of Harriet Meadows, who passed away May the 10th, 1920. Rest in peace. I might head down towards Church Street now. Gives me a chance to mention that Yaxley is another Anglo-Saxon agricultural settlement in these parts. It appears in I think 900s AD Anglo-Saxon chronicle, mentioned as Lashersley. I'll put it up on the screen in case I pronounced it wrong. Lashersley, which was the name it used in the Domesday Book before sort of morphing into Yaxley at some point. So it's got some age to it. There's no Anglo-Saxon remains I'm aware of anywhere in the village, unfortunately, but it's an old settlement. As we approach the church on the left here was where, as far as I can trace, was where the Manor House was. It's gone now, but yeah, the Manor House for Yaxley was on our left here. And I think there's a connection to the Probies, who were at Elton Hall. Proby family. Their name appears in Yaxley as part of the manor holders. I presume it's the same people. They've even got a Carrisford Close, which was exactly the name of the road we saw in Elton. Next to the iron foundry in Elton, if I remember rightly, so it's definitely the same family, the Proby stroke Carrisford family, and all that's left is this old 1700s left over from the Manor House, and called Manor Farm House. And it's the only bit that's still remaining from the Manor House. So it used to be a lot bigger than this. The buildings on the left were all farm buildings. There's even a mill wheel there. I wonder where that's come from. Possibly the windmill on Broadway. Yeah, that's the 1700s house there. Very nice too. Makes you wonder what's underneath that field, if anything. It just looks a bit suspicious to me. I'd love to do a time team, get my old digger in there, dig some trenches. It might be natural. We don't get many sort of hilly fields in this part of the world. More like a submerged medieval village, and it's not, as far as I'm aware. Interesting. Right, let's head down to the Church of St Peter. You'll have to excuse the low sun once again. It's one of the downsides to sunny days. Plenty of upsides, I suppose. It doesn't make it easy to film, apart from it produces some nice silhouettes. This is the Church of St Peter's. Dates back to about it dates back to the 1200s basically. So just the wrong side of William the Conqueror to be Norman, but it's probably late Norman in my definitions. Old enough, and like all the churches, it's been modernised many times, but yeah, 1200 is as far back as it goes. That's far enough. I did just walk past the vicarage then, and I shouldn't have done. I'm not sure there's a lot of date in it, because there's an older vicarage down the road, but that is the vicarage as it is today. You tend to find the arches around the doors are often the oldest surviving parts of these churches, so that may well be the case there. With that arch, that could easily be 1300s. I don't know for sure. My guess it probably is. Let's have a peep up at the tower. On which you have peregrine falcons nesting, or has been in recent years, which has been a claim to fame. I doubt we'll see them. It's another old door. Very much hints of late Norman in that one, with a very layered approach to the archwork there. It probably isn't, but it could be a sort of late Norman influence, if nothing else. No doubt about it, that is an old one. That archway is definitely going to go back. If it isn't 1200s, it's 1300s. Definitely an old one. JB, does that say? TB, IB. And if I'm not mistaken, that says 1627. Nice bit of old medieval graffiti. Not the most spectacular of churches. I've done a few weddings here, and it's a lovely, lovely church inside, and always nice vicars here, always. Always enjoy doing weddings in St Peter's. But not quite old enough for my liking on the outside. But that's all a matter of taste. They all look good. They all look good on days like this with blue sky. That's St Peter's for you. It's a struggle to read any of these gravestones. These are pretty old compared to those in the cemetery up the road. I'm sure we'll find one somewhere. There's one that's made to be seen, stands out from the crowd. Thomas Marriott, who died 1879 in the 81st year of his age, also of wife Sarah Ann who died 1866. Can't see the age. Right, we've seen the modern day vicarage, nice though it is. This is a proper vicarage. This was the original vicarage opposite the church. No idea of date, it's not listed, and I can't find any information about it. That's got to go back to 1800s, I would suggest, early mid 1800s, could be older, but I would suggest that as being the date. And it's a magnificent building. It just looks like a vicarage as well. It's a silly comment, but it does. Very nice. Right, we shall head down the hill. There's a little bit of history as we go down on the left. Church farm, it says on that one. It's like an old barn. Again, another magnificent house, as far as I'm aware, is not listed. I can't tell you much about it. It's the farmhouse of Church Farm. Cracking building. Interesting building coming up, the three-floored building. Can't tell you anything about it age-wise. Like so many buildings down here, they're not listed. But it does go back a fair way. But what interests me most about it is in the grass bank in front there are some mounting blocks, apparently used by the Earl of Carysfort, Proby family members in other words. Was used by their bailiff to mount his steed each morning to go round and do his rounds of the village. I'll guess at it dating back to the 1700s, but I could be wrong. Looks like the the mounting blocks are a bit scattered. I don't know. Right, coming down onto Main Street now. Just going to head right for a very short distance. Not that there's too much down there, but you'll see why when we get down the bottom. That house to the right of that blue car, or behind that blue car, late 1600s, early 1700s. Where that car is, behind that, used to be a shop. If you know what shop it was, do drop us a comment under the video, because I can't find out what it was. So to the left of the main door, it was a shop. How long ago, I don't know. But shop on the left and house on the right, but the whole building dates back, as I say, late 1600s to early 1700s. It's an old one. Shop window on the left, one assumes. Right, the West End. There is nothing down here except new builds on the left. But from the mid 1850s onwards, it used to be Cook's Iron Foundry. As many a Yaxley person of a certain age will know. Let's wait for these cars to come past. Suddenly got busy. Right, so come up towards the end of the road where it turns into a footpath on the left. Well, I put a couple of pictures up. You can see what used to be the sort of entrance to Cook's Iron Foundry. It was started in, I think, 1857, and I think it was still going, certainly quite late in the 1900s. I can vaguely remember it, so it can't have been that long ago. Certainly 1970s, and probably older than that. I couldn't find a date when it closed, but relatively recently. So it was going for well over 100 years. but there's nothing to see. Or at least I can't find any evidence in aerial photographs that there's anything left. It was just completely levelled. I might have a wander down here towards the end of the walk, see if I can find anything, but I'm sure there's nothing left. Right, back onto the historically very busy main street. I know a bit about some of the buildings, others I know nothing more than what's written on the side of the building, which is a lifesaver. And the first two buildings I know we come to is a bakery and the butchers, and that's all I know about them. I have no photographs. I have no dates, so if you can add anything to these two mainstays of village life, then do add some comments under the video. That one there we're coming to now with the crosses on it, the old bakery, and if it didn't say that I wouldn't have known. That lovely building over there, Yaxley Carpets, as was, is the old butcher's, and I know that because it says so on the wall. It's all coming up thick and fast now. On the right we have one of several Methodist chapels that exist in Yaxley. They used to pop up left, right and centre in the late 1800s. Easier to build a chapel than a church. And Methodism was very popular. I was looking for a date on it as I couldn't find one online. And I'm not going to find one on the walls either by the looks, because it's been sort of wiped out. Classic Methodist chapel building. And that is an equally classical or classic fire engine shed or fire engine building, and that dates to 1878. Thank you, sir. Engine house, 1878, next to the modern day fire station. Just going back here because I've just missed something, because I knew I would. Opposite the Methodist chapel, that is an old pub. Kicked off in the 1820s. That was the George and Dragon pub. No idea when it closed. I don't think it's been open for quite some time, but that was the George and Dragon. And that one over there was also a pub. That's marked on maps as William IV pub. Unusual name. But the William IV pub closed in 1962. Used to be a blacksmith behind it. There's no point me wandering up there, there's nothing remaining. I think there used to be 3 generations of blacksmiths used to work behind this pub, and I think he was the landlord of the pub as well, the guy who was the blacksmith, so he pulled pints and shoed your horse at the same time. Coming up to Bird & Co, it's some of you might remember as Yaxley Sports at one point in the not too distant past. Nice shop. And another pub, and this one's open. Well, not open, but it's still alive. The 3 Horseshoes. Early 1700s this one dates back to. And still going strong. I wonder if this was a bolt onto the pub. It looks kind of different. It's certainly part of it now. According to old maps, this building was George, I think his name was George Arthur cobbler's shop. It certainly isn't a cobbler's shop anymore. Don't know much about this one, but it's a fantastic ghost door on the front. We'll always love to know the history behind ghost doors. Bright red door, got to be the old post office, which it is because it says on the wall. The door to the post office used to be where that middle window is, underneath the middle dormer window. I'm sure I've got a photograph somewhere to prove that. This tall and rather elaborate brick building dates back to the mid to late 1700s. A very tidy building that is, if I say so myself. Yeah, definite 1700s, that one. Lovely building. On the left here, just past Beaver Place. Used to be the girls' school between 1876 and 1953. And an infant school up to about 1970, I think it went. So fairly recent. Well, 1970 isn't recent really, it is to me. The only survivor from the school is that last building, which was the master's house, headmaster's house, schoolmaster's house, whatever you want to call it. And it was demolished in the late 1970s, the school was, apart from the master's house. Still standing proud. Right, let's head up Chapel Street. My guess is there's a chapel up here. There it is, lurking behind this white building. And this one I can date, 1844. There actually used to be another one opposite it, which is long gone, Baptist Chapel. So there used to be two of them up here. Oh, it's got a date stamp on it, better be 1844. I'm going to give up and go home. Yeah, Wesleyan, 1844. Not the flashiest of Wesleyan chapels. We're just passing Back Lane on the left, just behind this car, but we'll be coming down Back Lane once we go past it and come back the other side. Although there's a nice building on the corner here that I can tell you nothing about. Is that a fire insurance plaque at the top of the wall? Not too sure actually. Yeah, there's some nice buildings. The shopping centre of Old Yaxley, can't tell you much about any of this, but I'm sure it brings back memories to some, and I'm sure those shops have changed many times over the decades. The thatch coming up was the Royal Oak pub. Dates to 1700s, although some say 1600s. It's certainly old, and it's certainly no longer a pub. Got a feeling this was opened quite recently. It rings a bell with me. I might be wrong. Right, we've gone round the back lane now, just to see this, which this wooden building opened in 1921 as the public hall. It's got a stone built bit at the back now, but the original was this wooden one. Got some photos, or a photo of the inside of it, but it's done well to survive as a wooden building and still very much used. Yaxley Public Hall. Oh look, another chapel. I think this one is still functioning as a chapel, the Yaxley Methodist Chapel. No idea of the dates as usual. Can't quite read that, I might have a go at home. Those buildings over there, thought by some to be old almshouses. I haven't been able to prove it, but they look the part. So possibly old almshouse buildings. And that building on the left used to be G. Wiles and Son Newsagents, closed in 1980. Some of you will know that already. And that thatched building, as some will know, was Ernie Manton's butcher's shop. Note the ghost door to the right of the window, the left-hand window. I think that was his door. I've got a photo somewhere. Right, I need to head up Middleton Road now, next to these possible almshouses. Nice character terraced houses, 1904, Middleton Street cottages. Absolute belter of a beamed house, if that's the right expression. Coming up on the left, dates back to the 1600s. And very much looks it as well. What a wonderful building. Very, very nice. Wow. Right, going to head down past Yaxley Green now. There's quite a lot of history crammed into this green. Thought to be where the old ancient market used to take place many centuries ago, from about the 1200s to the 1500s. The sideways house to the right used to be another pub with the unusual name of the Recruiting Sergeant. Certainly dates back to the early 1800s, and it was closed sometime in the 1960s. On the left there, the white one, was another pub called the Bell, or the Bell Inn to give it its proper name. That actually does look like a small pub. No shortage of alcohol around the green, that's for sure. That's nice. Nice building round the back as well. And that was the Bell Inn. No idea of dates on that one. That was the Recruiting Sergeant. Not sure it even looks like a pub, but it would make a nice pub with a nice beer garden at the front. You can't have a village green without a village pump. Dates in the late 1800s and was a main water source for the village until they had mains water, which was 1934. Up until then, this was a pretty important source of water, nicely looked after, along with its surrounding posts, all authentic. As I say, all dating to middle part or latter part of the 1800s. Dare I hope for something unusual about this post box? Seem to be having a good run of them of late. Oh yes, we're in luck again. That's an Edward VII. Edward VII post box, so that's somewhere between 1901 and 1910, and aren't many of those around. Very nice. You know, if nobody told me what that building was, I might have a stab at it being the old workhouse, which is exactly what it was. I don't know what it is. It has a certain atmosphere. It's those upstairs windows, I think. No disrespect to the owners, but it definitely has a workhouse feel to it. A wonderful, wonderful old workhouse building. And some might say equally wonderful. That shop used to be the village co-op, now the Premier. What's the co-op? Every village has to have a co-op. Oh, I see a plaque. Can't resist the plaque. Try not to get run over. Olinthus Gregory, 1774 to 1841. He was a Yaxley-born mathematician of national repute and an author and an editor of something. Now you know. It's a nice mid-1700s thatch coming up on the right. Very tidy thatch as well. We've got another chapel coming up, hidden in the trees next to that 1845 house to our right. This one's well hidden away. Church of St Bartholomew. Used to be the Yaxley United Reformed Church, and it was a non-conformist chapel back in 1812, and there's the date on the wall, if you can see it through the sun. Used to be another pub down here called Checkers. Just got to try and nail it, it's that. Where those two bins are. That used to be Checkers pub, or the Checkers Inn if you prefer. It was certainly a pub in 1887. Can't tell you anything more about it. You're thinking, whoa, you just passed the old school and you didn't stop. Well, I couldn't stop because the kids were out the front having a play session, so I'll have to get it on the way back, whether they're outside or not. I may have to be a bit quicker than I'd like because it's a lovely old school building. Coming up in the distance on the left is the last of our pubs, which is the Duck and Drake. Pleased to report that one is still going. The building looks quite old. It didn't appear on maps prior to 1900 as a pub, but it did appear on a 1924 map as a pub, so you can work that one out for yourself. Looking at the building, I strongly suspect it dates back well before 1900, so it was a house before it was a pub, as is often the case. That's definitely not a 1900 house, but it was a pub. Yeah, still going strong, but that house, I would say, definitely minimum 1800s, if not 1700s, long before it became a pub. And I've never been there. Must make the effort. Well, we're heading up towards the school. I might have to keep moving, so I'll explain what I can before we get there. There's not a lot to explain really. I think although there's some kids outside, I think that's a nursery. I think that, I mean, the school itself doesn't operate as a school anymore. I might have that totally wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's not a school anymore. It's been closed a while. Dates back to the mid 1800s or possibly late 1800s. I think there's an 1848 stamp on one of the walls, but I can't really get in there to see. But it's a lovely old building, and I think it is now used, if I remember rightly, as some sort of council parish hall or something, whatever that means, because the infant school I think used to be in there is now to our immediate right at this gate, so they're not in the old building. As I say, I'm pretty sure it's used by the council, so I was hoping to have a bit of a wander around, but if there's kiddies out, I can't do that, sadly. The building at the back of it on the left, I know it's not easy to see from here, is the old schoolhouse. Schoolhouse dates slightly later than the school building does. So I think the school itself mid 1800s and the schoolhouse to the left late 1800s. Lovely building. So I wish I could have a wander around. And there's the back of the school. So an old window, filled in. Must have been. The old schoolmaster's house, very nice. Even though I can't tell you much about some of these buildings because they're just not listed or detailed in any way. There's certainly plenty of character in many of the buildings down Main Street, including that one there. There's a story behind that one and I can't tell you what it is. Looking up the village green to that wonderful building on the right and a pub on the left. Right, we'll head back down Main Street now, but this time with the sun behind me because it gets me better pictures and you can enjoy old Yaxley village without me chuntering on. I'll stay quiet and let you just enjoy the visuals. Whilst I wander towards the back end of Main Street and got a bit of time to kill, I will take you back to somewhere I visited on the way into Yaxley this morning. Still counts as Yaxley, but I'll just bolt this one in to fill up a few minutes. Welcome to the Yaxley Prisoner of War Camp, as it gets called, and it was for a period of time. There's nothing here really now, apart from a few broken remains and the footings of the camp that was here. Dates back to the 1940, well, does date back to 1940, pretty much after Dunkirk and It was used originally as a military camp. I mean, Royal Engineers were here and others, and it became a prisoner of war camp after that for primarily German prisoners. So it was a prisoner of war camp. There's no Colditz Castle as such. I'll put some photographs up to give you an idea of what it looked like. I don't have too many, but as you can see, it just looks like a military camp. Once the military had finished with it, I think it was the sort of late-ish 1940s, it was used for quite a significant period of time by the local brickworks to house many of its workers. And I think when they dwindled in the 1950s, about 1955, 56, it closed down, and I think it stayed here derelict for a period of time. Until relatively recently. I'm sure I've seen some pictures taken in the late 1900s, and the buildings were still here then. But as you can see now, it is just an empty space, and one assumes it's going to be built on at some point. The buildings were all wooden, or nearly all wooden anyway, with sort of stone, concrete, brick foundations. So the only thing that's going to survive are lumps of stone, lumps of brickwork, and that is it. Nothing to see, as I say, but a valid part of Yaxley's history, albeit more recent history. Press, LBC London Brick Company. I'm assured press comes from the two words for, as in the number, and press, as in PRESS, because that was the method or the process used to produce the bricks, and it kind of got shrunk from press to press, if that makes sense. A survivor from the site anyway. Some sizable remains in here. It's definitely not a wooden building, is it? Wish I could tell you what it was. Last piece standing, I would suggest, whatever it might have been. There's some bits and bobs lying around in here actually. Can't guarantee they date back to the days of the camp, but don't think so. Is that an old bottle? Let's have a look. Peterborough. Don't recognise that bottle. Could be an old one. There you go. There's a better one. Eastwards, and 4 pressed at the bottom, yet to become 4 press. Nice. Bit of history in a brick. I've escaped from the POW camp. Chalk that one up. Interesting place if you're like me and you like rummaging amongst old wartime sites. Wartime and beyond, I should add. Right, let's get on to Yaxley village now. I thought I'd wander down into the woods, see if I could find anything of that iron foundry, and as I said earlier, there's nothing here, but I was determined to check and there isn't. So that's it for Yaxley. It's okay actually, but the middle part of Main Street's mad. You know, there's a lot of people, there's not many pavements, and you know, I prefer to stand still and talk about some of the buildings outside of them, but you can't do that. You can't do that because people come up to you and they say, excuse me, what are you doing? And you say, well, I'm doing a video, and they say no. Well, they don't say, they just think, you see it in their eyes, he's not doing a video, he's military or he's council, because my camera doesn't look like a camera. So I'm just not confident enough to deal with that. So I go as slow as I dare, but it always feels like I'm going too quick. But I hope I did a reasonable job, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I do thank you for joining me and keeping me company. I will have another one planned, or I've got one planned, so if the weather stays like this, I'll definitely be out sometime in the next week, and I do hope you'll come along and join me on that one too. So many thanks for joining me today, and I will see you again next time.